Anyway, let's go across to Barbara and then across to Natalie.
As you were talking, I was feeling that if I remain humble to all my emotions and do exactly what you've been saying, my pain will go away, but also the pain that I've incurred on children, grandchildren, and I'll be able to measure that over time.
Yes, because the law of compensation is always at work. So the law of compensation right now in your life is telling you the things that are wrong. Right now, it's not going to get worse unless you sin more. Right? It can only get worse by sinning more, right? Or not releasing your current sin. That's the only way it gets worse. And we talked about in the previous presentation that the best thing to do is to sin no more and remove your current sin. And what I'm saying to you, the way to remove your current sin is to feel the emotional pain associated with the current sin and to enter a state of repentance. Now we've constructed a program where we talk about, in the future, we talk about yourself, because we've got to see how all of these things interplay. So we need to spend a whole week on you yourself, what you've made up of, the hurt and the facade and the real self. But after that, we're looking at understanding God's laws better. What laws are going to impact upon you removing pain is really what we need to discuss. So we'll be discussing those particular laws in that group. And then after that, we're looking at understanding sin. So we need to understand the motivations to sin. And the primary motivation to sin is your avoidance of what you believe to be pain. That's your primary motivation for sin.
And suppression of the pain?
Well, when you suppress the pain, you don't even think you've had any. You're trying to avoid the feeling of pain.
Okay.
Suppressing pain is the same thing, trying to avoid the feeling of pain.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's all, that's what causes us to sin. That's what causes us to take actions that are out of harmony with love, because we're desperately trying to prevent pain. So for some of you, pain just means having to feel a little bit of fear. And you'll do anything to not feel fear, right? I had a discussion a few years ago with a group, with an audience in the US, up in Philly it was actually. Remember, yes. I think you were even there.
Yes.
Remember in the restaurant?
Yes, vividly.
Yeah. How angry everyone got with me.
Yes.
It was just like, I was surrounded by about 50 people just hammering me. Because they didn't want to accept this one fact that actually their attitude with regard to their fear was causing the wars that America was engaging in. And they were all trying to tell me that wasn't the case. I couldn't agree with them, right? Because they didn't even want to see that fear, they were justifying to me, fear. Fear is a good motivator for going to war. If you want to prevent other people from attacking you, go and attack them first. That's the right thing to do. Right? But it's all, or even attack them last. It doesn't really matter which order you do it in. It's still not the right thing to do. You know what I mean? But nobody wants to accept these truths. That's why we have continual pain.
Yeah. And that's why we have an unloving man wanting to be president now in the US.
Yeah, he's just connecting with people's pain. He knows how to manipulate people's pain. He's had decades of time to learn how to manipulate people's pain in order to have power over them, in order to get control of them, in order to get money for his own wealth. He's had decades of it, right? And the American people have become these puppets to pain. That's all they're interested in, just avoiding pain. As most of us are in the Western world, that's all we're interested in doing. And of course, if he does get into power, it's exactly what the American people want. They want somebody to come along and push all their buttons and say all the right things and meaning nothing. That's what they want.
Thank you.
So, it wouldn't surprise me if he does get into power, And this is the thing, is that it's driven by our avoidance of pain. We want to avoid pain, whether that, whether that just be economic hardship, or whether it be some physical hardship, or whether it be the fact that I haven't got a job and I want somebody else to make one for me, and all sorts of pains that we have, and all we try to do is avoid them, and we blame others, we want others to fix it for us. And so, most people in the Western world are really heavy on governments because they want the government to fix their personal problems. That's because each of us individually don't want to feel our personal problems, don't want to feel our pain, and we want someone else to blame and someone else to be responsible and someone else to fix it for us. It's all unloving, and we're not willing to see our own unloving behaviour. Yeah. It's a big problem in the Western world, isn't it?
I was just going to comment. My arm swelled up because I was resistant to feeling anger that I was feeling when I was visiting my sister for 5 weeks. Yeah. Obviously still resistant.
Obviously, yeah. Natalie?